You know, i- usually when we talk about a heist, we tend to picture this very classic, like, cinematic setup.
Right, like the masks in the heavy steel bank vault.
Exactly. Or, maybe a complex web of laser alarms that somebody has to literally backflip through. It's dramatic.
Very Hollywood.
Yeah. And most importantly, it is incredibly obvious when you've been robbed in that
Oh,
scenario.
absolutely. You look at your bank account or your jewelry box, and the valuables are just undeniably gone.
Right. But today, we're investigating a heist that is happening to you right now, like today,
Yeah.
in broad daylight.
And it's happening constantly.
Constantly. And the absolute wildest part is you probably haven't even noticed exactly what's missing because, well, they didn't take your money.
Yeah.
They didn't steal your identity. They took something far more foundational. They literally took your ability to desire and pursue truly complex, difficult things.
The absolute brilliance of this heist, if we can even call it that, is the delivery mechanism.
Yeah.
The thieves didn't have to break a window. They didn't pick a lock. They used a device that you willingly purchased.
The one right in your pocket.
Exactly. The one you keep intimately close to your body on your nightstand. And you invite them in voluntarily
Yeah.
every single time you unlock that glowing screen.
It's wild.
It really is the perfect crime because the victim is essentially an active participant.
Okay, let's unpack this because we're diving into a stack of materials today that honestly read less like typical scientific research and more like a true crime dossier.
They really do. The tone is surprisingly urgent.
It is. So we're looking at some incredibly sharp neurobiological data, some deep analytical breakdowns on the mechanics of digital ecosystems, and this one is the absolute kicker for me, an internal corporate analysis.
Ah, yes. The Cognitive Capital Report.
Yes, a highly revealing report on a concept they are calling cognitive capital. So our mission today for this deep dive is basically tearing down the architecture of the digital casino.
Right, exposing the mechanics.
Exactly. We're going to look at how algorithms weaponize our own biology, right?
Mhm.
How they turn a totally harmless swipe into a literal slot machine.
And we really need to shatter some major misconceptions about dopamine along the way.
We absolutely do. And ultimately, we want to explain exactly why the beautiful, physical, normal world suddenly feels unbearably slow to you.
And that concept of cognitive capital you mentioned, it really sets the stakes for this entire conversation.
It raises the alarm for sure.
It does, because what the biological data and that corporate data collectively point to is a massive systemic shift in human cognition.
Not just an individual problem.
Exactly. We really need to move past this outdated, guilt-ridden idea that we're just dealing with bad habits or some sudden generation-wide loss of personal willpower.
Right, like we all just got lazy overnight.
Exactly. If you can't focus, it's not a moral failing. We are looking at a structural, physiological rewiring of the human brain's reward and motivation circuitry.
So to figure out how this rewiring actually happens, I feel like we have to start right at the scene of the crime.
Smartphone screen.
Right, the
Yeah.
screen. Because before we look at the cellular damage, the biology of it, we really need to understand the precise weapon that these algorithms are using against us.
And it's a very specific weapon.
It is. Reading through these technical breakdowns, there is this foundational architecture driving almost every single social media feed and short video platform out there.
Of the variable reward system.
Yes. The variable reward system. What exactly is that?
Well, it's also called variable reinforcement.
Yeah.
And it is the absolute cornerstone of behavioral design.
Okay.
To understand why it's so powerful, we really need to look at the psychology of unpredictability.
Meaning we don't know what's coming next.
Precisely.
Right.
The core feature of a variable reward system is that the user, you, sitting on your couch, you never know in advance what the next piece of information will be or how stimulating it's going to be.
Right.
When you flick your thumb and swipe to the next video or the next post, you are literally rolling the dice. Sometimes you land on what the researchers call a strong stimulus.
Like an outrageously funny video.
Exactly. Or a highly controversial piece of news, or something just completely visually novel that catches your eye.
The jackpot.
That's it, the jackpot. But other times, and in fact most times, you land on a weak stimulus.
Which is what? Like an ad.
Yeah, an irritating ad or a boring update from someone you barely know or just some trend you honestly don't care about at all.
So it's very hit or miss.
Right. It is a fundamental asymmetry of reward.
Which is literally identical to how a slot machine works in Vegas. Like, think about it. If you walked into a casino, sat down at a machine, pulled the lever, and won exactly $1 every single time, guaranteed
Guaranteed reward.
you'd get bored out of your mind within 10 minutes.
Mhm.
There's absolutely no thrill in that. It would just become a highly repetitive manual labor job.
A very tedious, low-paying job.
Exactly. But because you might hit the grand prize on the next pull or, maybe the pull after that, you keep pulling. The randomization is the actual hook.
And that comparison to a slot machine, it's not just a clever metaphor to make a point.
Right. The sources are clear on this.
Very clear. The underlying psychological schema is literally identical. It is precisely that inability to predict the outcome that forces the human brain into a loop.
Because we want to solve the puzzle.
Basically, you return to the action, the swipe over and over again, hoping to resolve the uncertainty with a win of high-quality information.
Wow.
But here is where the digital platforms take this mechanism and engineer it to a level of psychological capture that a physical casino can't ever really achieve.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this while I was looking through the analysis. Because a physical casino has friction.
Right. Plenty of it.
Yeah. You run out of chips, or your arm physically gets tired from pulling the lever, or you literally just have to get up to use the bathroom.
Right. The physical world interrupts you.
Exactly. So I'm assuming that algorithm's ultimate goal is to basically remove all that physical and environmental friction.
That is exactly the algorithmic mandate.
Yeah.
The total, absolute elimination of emptiness.
Emptiness. That's an interesting word for it.
It is. These platforms are meticulously optimized to create a completely seamless, continuous stream of stimuli.
No breaks.
Zero breaks. Because in the physical world, your brain naturally relies on stopping cues.
Like what?
Like the chapter of a book ending.
Oh, right.
Or the TV episode goes to the credits. Or you reach the bottom of the cereal bowl.
Basically a natural pause button.
Exactly. These pauses give the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for executive function, logic, and self-control. It gives it a moment to step in.
To say, okay, we've had enough.
Right. To say, time to do something else.
But the digital feed is literally bottomless. There is no chapter end, ever.
No.
It autoplays the next video before you've even fully processed the last one.
Precisely. It denies the prefrontal cortex any natural intermission.
It just bypasses it.
Completely. By eliminating that emptiness, the system bypasses your executive control entirely. It creates this localized environment where the only logical, frictionless action is to just continue the loop.
So they build a casino with no doors, no clocks.
And a slot machine that never, ever runs out of levers to pull. And remember, their core metric isn't your satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's not your productivity.
It's just time and app.
Their singular overriding metric is time and app.
Okay, so they've built the perfect frictionless trap. But here is the massive question I kept hitting while reviewing this neurobiological data.
What's that?
We are highly intelligent creatures, right?
I'd like to think so.
Right. So why does a simple microscopic physical motion, a tiny swipe of a thumb on a piece of glass, have such a deeply overpowering physical hold on our entire central nervous system?
It's a great question.
Because what is the actual biological glue that keeps us pinned to this digital slot machine? Even when our conscious minds perfectly well know that we should be sleeping or working or talking to our kids?
Well, to answer that, we have to completely shatter one of the most pervasive pop science myths of the last decade.
Okay, let's do it.
We all know the buzzwords. We need to talk about dopamine.
Right. I'm just getting my dopamine hit. Like, people say it all the time.
Constantly.
Yeah, when they talk about eating a glazed donut or buying a pair of shoes online or doom scrolling at 2 a.m., the cultural understanding is entirely that dopamine equals pleasure.
Right, the reward chemical.
Well, exactly.
And what's fascinating here is that the deep neurological data shows we are fundamentally misinterpreting not just the function of dopamine, but the actual timeline of how it works in the brain.
Okay, wait. Misinterpreting how?
It is categorically not the molecule of pleasure.
Really?
Really, when you actually receive the reward, when you finally taste the sugar, or you laugh out loud at the video, that feeling of satisfaction or pleasure is mediated by completely different neurochemicals.
Like what?
Primarily opioids and endocannabinoids.
Yeah.
Dopamine is doing something far, far more insidious in this context.
Okay, so if it's not the feeling of the reward, what is it?
Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of motivation, of thirst, and the anticipation of a reward. It is the neurochemical engine of expectation.
Wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this timeline.
Sure.
If it's about anticipation, that means The hit everyone is talking about doesn't happen when I actually watch the funny video.
Correct.
It happens when?
The massive spike in your dopamine levels actually happens before you see the content.
Whoa.
It happens in that split second of friction, right in the middle of the physical swipe,
Before it even loads?
before the new video or post even loads on your screen. Your brain releases dopamine to motivate you to perform the physical action because it anticipates a potential reward.
Based on that variable schedule we just talked about.
Exactly. Dopamine doesn't make you feel satisfied.
Hmm.
It drives an endless, absolutely unquenchable thirst. It is the urge to seek.
That completely flips the script.
It changes everything.
I mean, we aren't scrolling because it feels good to watch the videos. We are scrolling because our brain is chemically forcing us to seek the next video.
You're chasing the anticipation.
Right. The
Yeah.
whole platform isn't giving us pleasure. It's literally injecting us with an artificial thirst.
Yes.
And if we look at this from an evolutionary perspective, which is deeply detailed in this research, by the way, it makes terrifying sense.
It really does.
Because our human nervous systems evolved over hundreds of thousands of years in an environment where high-value stimuli were incredibly rare.
Exactly. Just picture the ancestral environment.
Right, like if you were a hunter-gatherer on the savannah and out of the corner of your eye you saw a sudden flash of bright color, or you heard a strange rustling noise in the brush.
Your brain had to react immediately.
It had to. It needed to treat that novelty as a literal life-or-death survival signal because it could be a source of food.
Or it could be a predator about to end your life.
Exactly. You couldn't just ignore it. You needed a massive, immediate hit of motivation to go investigate that stimulus.
And that is the exact biological vulnerability that the digital casino exploits.
The survival instinct.
Yes. We have a nervous system beautifully adapted to survive in a low-stimulus, slow-moving world. But it has been violently dropped into a constant, never-ending algorithmic stream of high-level stimuli.
We just aren't built for it.
We are fundamentally unadapted for this. The brain is just doing what it evolved to do, seeking out novelty to ensure survival and gather resources.
But it's doing it in the wrong environment.
It has been placed in an alien, entirely artificial ecosystem that weaponizes that exact survival mechanism against us. And all for the sake of ad revenue and user retention.
It's like we evolved this incredibly sensitive, high-powered radar designed to locate a single drop of water in a vast desert.
Okay, I like that.
And then someone just dropped us into the middle of the ocean, and the radar is just screaming constantly. It's completely overwhelmed.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize the mismatch. The system is just flooding.
Okay, so this brings me to a point of logical friction that I really want to clear up.
Let's hear it.
So the phone creates this unquenchable thirst. I get that. It's annoying. But why can't I just, put the phone down, walk away, and go back to reading a book?
Yeah.
Or working on my spreadsheet? Why does the book suddenly feel like an actual physical chore? Why do I feel visceral, actual discomfort when I try to do something normal?
Because the heist doesn't stop at just stealing your time while you hold the phone.
Mm-hmm.
It fundamentally alters your baseline reality.
How so?
And it does this through a core biological principle called homeostasis.
Homeostasis. Okay. The body's attempt to keep things balanced and stable.
Right. Your brain is essentially a highly sensitive chemical scale. It is constantly trying to maintain an equilibrium.
Right.
But when you are doom scrolling, your brain is being absolutely bombarded with frequent, unnaturally massive dopamine spikes. We're talking hundreds of times an hour.
It's just a constant flood.
Exactly. The neurons are flooded.
Yeah.
And the brain recognizes that this extreme chemical overload is not normal. And more importantly, it realizes it's potentially toxic to the cells.
Toxic. Wow. So how does it defend itself against that?
To protect itself from essentially burning out, the brain turns down the volume. On a physiological level, the neurons literally retract their dopamine receptors.
They pull them back.
Yes, specifically the D2 receptors. They pull them back into the cell body so they can't be activated by the flood of neurotransmitters.
Mm-hmm.
This process is called downregulation.
Downregulation. Okay, so if I can use an analogy to make sure I'm visualizing the cellular process right,
Go for it.
it's like if you go to a rock concert, right? And you stand right next to the massive speakers for 3 hours straight.
I've been there.
Right. The music is so impossibly loud that your ears have to physically protect themselves. They dampen the acoustic reflex.
Yes, to prevent permanent damage.
Exactly. So when you finally leave the concert and step out onto the quiet street, you can barely hear your friend talking to you.
Right, everything is muffled.
The baseline volume of the world hasn't changed. The street isn't quieter, but your ability to perceive the volume has plummeted.
That is an exceptionally accurate analogy for what is happening at a neurochemical level.
Oh, wow.
When your dopamine receptors downregulate, your baseline level of motivation simply crashes.
Oh.
And this leads to a profound structural miscalibration of desire.
Miscalibration.
Yes, your entire motivation system gets recalibrated exclusively to respond to hyper-fast, high-intensity, zero-effort rewards.
Which means the real world, the physical world we actually have to live and build our lives in, suddenly has a catastrophic disadvantage.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because the physical world is naturally slow.
It is.
It requires complex physical and mental effort. You actually
Well.
have to wait for things. And it very rarely offers an instant, highly stimulating payout.
True.
So because your dopamine receptors are now muffled, retracted into the cell's normal, necessary tasks simply cannot compete.
They just don't register.
Studying for a final exam, analyzing a complex financial document, building a long-term career, nurturing a marriage.
Yeah.
None of these things provide a large enough, fast enough dopamine spike to even register on your newly desensitized receptors.
That is so depressing.
To your artificially deafened brain, these crucial life goals suddenly feel unbearably boring, totally pointless, and simply not worth the massive energy expenditure they require.
Okay, I really want to push back on this, or at least I want to play devil's advocate for a moment,
Please do.
because I can hear the skeptics. And honestly, I hear my own internal monologue right now.
Here's the thing.
It's saying, look, people have been procrastinating for centuries. Long before Mark Zuckerberg was born, my grandfather was putting off doing his taxes to go tinker in the garage.
Human nature.
Right. Humanity has always struggled with focus. So are we absolutely sure we aren't just using advanced neurobiology as a highly convenient excuse for basic age-old human laziness?
It is a really vital distinction to make. But the neurobiological data rigorously defends against this being mere laziness.
Okay. How?
Classic procrastination is often driven by a psychological aversion to a specific task.
Like tax.
Exactly. Maybe you find taxes confusing or stressful, so you avoid them. But what we are analyzing here is not task-specific aversion.
It's broader than that.
It is a systemic, physiological inability to sustain effort across all domains of complex thought. The brain is, above all else, an organ designed by evolution to conserve metabolic energy.
Right. Wants to save calories.
When faced with a choice, the brain's internal algorithm will automatically, instinctively seek the path of least energy expenditure that yields the highest chemical reward.
So it's doing a brutal cost-benefit analysis.
Exactly. And because the internal scale is broken, because the receptors are downregulated, the brain looks at the spreadsheet and looks at the smartphone.
And it's not even a fair fight.
Not at all.
Okay.
The smartphone offers a massive chemical payout for zero metabolic effort.
Just a thumb swipe.
It's just a swipe.
Mm.
The spreadsheet, on the other hand, requires massive metabolic effort for a highly delayed abstract payout.
Right.
So the brain automatically, almost reflexively, shuts down the effort toward the spreadsheet. It is literally an internal energy conservation strike.
And there was a specific, honestly terrifying metric in that corporate analysis report regarding exactly this phenomenon.
Ah, yes, I know.
They weren't even looking at brain scans for this. They were looking at sheer raw productivity data across their teams.
The real-world output.
Yeah, and they found that cognitive stamina is degrading so severely across the workforce that employees are consistently hitting a wall of absolute exhaustion after just 10 to 15 minutes of focused work.
Yes, the 10-15-minute wall.
It's wild.
And the authors of that corporate analysis make a crucial distinction that perfectly aligns with the neurobiology we just discussed. This wall is not physical fatigue.
Right, you haven't been lifting bricks.
Your muscles aren't tired. Your eyes aren't even necessarily strained yet. You haven't depleted your caloric energy.
So what is it?
It is your dopamine system literally refusing to fund the effort.
Refusing to fund the effort. Wow.
The brain assesses the task, realizes there's no instant neurochemical payout coming in the next 10 seconds, and triggers a feeling of overwhelming exhaustion to force you to stop.
To make you seek a faster reward.
Exactly.
It's wild to think about it that way. You sit down at your desk, right, with all the good intentions in the world to do deep work.
You're ready to go.
You have your coffee, your quiet space, your noise-canceling headphones, and 12 minutes later, you feel a visceral, almost painful psychological friction.
It's a real physical sensation.
It is. You feel like you've just tried to run a marathon. And the urge to just check your phone just for a second is screaming in your head.
Because your brain is throwing a biochemical tantrum.
A tantrum for its fast dopamine.
Precisely. And this theft of our baseline motivation, this forced exhaustion, it leads directly to the next phase of the crisis.
Because it doesn't just stop at work output.
No, because it doesn't just change what we want to do.
Yeah.
It fundamentally alters the architecture of how we are capable of thinking.
The actual mechanics of thought.
Right. Because the brain is starved for easy dopamine and constantly trying to conserve metabolic energy, it literally changes its operational structure.
And this is where we get into that phrase from the reports.
Yes. It defaults to what the analytical reports term the rise of clip thinking.
Clip thinking. Okay, I really want to spend some time here because this feels like the core tragedy of the whole heist.
It's the most profound loss, arguably.
When we talk about clip thinking, we were fundamentally talking about losing the capacity for abstraction, right?
Yes, the synthesis of complex ideas.
Right. It's like, imagine we used to be master chefs, and we could take dozens of raw, disparate ingredients like history, data, human emotion, logic, and slow cook them over hours to synthesize a completely new, complex meal.
A brand new original idea.
Right. But with clip thinking, the neural pathways required to chop, season, and synthesize have literally atrophied. We've completely forgotten how to cook.
That's a great analogy.
So instead of cooking, we are now only capable of walking to the microwave and throwing in a pre-packaged 15-second, fully formed opinion that someone else assembled.
We just heat it up and consume it.
Exactly. We consume, but we can no longer synthesize.
That is a phenomenal way to illustrate the loss of abstraction. Clip thinking is characterized by this total inability to process deep, interwoven contexts.
Everything is isolated.
We process information in short, fragmented, entirely disconnected chunks. We lose the cognitive endurance required to hold a long, multivariable logical chain in our working memory.
And that corporate report on cognitive capital did a really stark comparative analysis on this exact shift.
They mapped it out very clearly.
They did. They mapped out deep work, which is our chef cooking the meal, versus this new digital simplification, the clip thinking microwave.
Right.
Can we break down the parameters of that contrast? Because looking at the data, it really starkly highlights the real-world fallout of this biological heist.
Certainly. The analysis breaks the degradation down across a few vital parameters. The first, as we briefly touched on, is cognitive effort and metabolic resources.
Energy usage.
Exactly. Deep thinking is highly energy intensive. It requires the brain to fire on all cylinders, actively burning glucose to sustain focus and hold ideas.
And clip thinking.
Clip thinking requires almost zero energy. The brain is essentially operating in a perpetual low-power battery-saving mode.
Just the path of absolute least resistance.
Correct. Now, the second parameter is speed versus depth.
Okay.
Deep thinking is inherently slow. It's methodical and analytical. You have to weigh historical precedents, you have to consider contradictory evidence, and project potential outcomes into the future.
That takes time.
It takes a lot of time. Clip thinking, on the other hand, is instant, impulsive, and entirely reactive.
You just react.
You see a headline, you feel a spike of emotion, and you react. There is absolutely no space or time allowed for analysis.
Which is the exact same reactive mechanism as swiping the feed, right? See stimulus, react to stimulus.
It's the exact same muscle.
What about the abstraction piece? How does the corporate data view that specific loss?
They actually view it as the most critical casualty for human capital.
Really? The most critical?
By far. Because deep thinking requires the ability to conceptualize complex, invisible systems.
Invisible systems. Give me an example.
Like, you have to hold abstract ideas in your mind.
Yeah.
Things that don't physically exist in front of you. Market dynamics, long-term strategic visions, or even complex human psychology.
Right, you have to mentally manipulate them.
Yes. But clip thinking avoids abstraction entirely. It relies strictly on obvious, highly visual, surface-level data.
Because abstraction is too hard.
Because abstract thought requires far too much metabolic effort for a down-regulated brain to sustain. It just gives up.
And all of this, it all cascades down into the final parameter they looked at, which is decision-making.
Exactly. Deep thinking yields strategic, grounded, highly nuanced, long-term decisions.
Decisions that actually solve problems.
Right. Whereas clip thinking results in obvious, superficial, and entirely short-term choices.
Band-aids.
Yes. Decisions made solely to relieve immediate pressure rather than solve the underlying root of the problem.
And when you extrapolate that, right, from just an individual sitting on their couch to a corporate context,
It gets scary.
or to global financial markets, Or geopolitical leadership. I mean, the implications are genuinely terrifying.
It creates a massive systemic vulnerability. The corporate analysis frames this as an impending crisis of intellectual leadership.
A crisis of leadership.
Think about it. When an entire organization's human capital defaults to obvious short-term choices because their brains are unconsciously but actively avoiding cognitive effort,
The company is doomed.
that organization loses its ability to innovate, period. It loses the capacity to forecast complex risks or solve multi-layered problems.
They just react to the news cycle.
The entire entity becomes entirely reactive to immediate market stimuli rather than maintaining a strategic long-term vision.
So they are basically just swiping the corporate feed, reacting to the loudest crisis of the day.
That is exactly what they are doing.
Okay, I mean, the picture painted by these materials is undeniably grim.
It's a harsh reality check.
We've basically mapped out the heist. The digital casino hijacked our deep evolutionary survival wiring using variable rewards. It flooded our synapses, forcing our dopamine receptors to downregulate and literally deafen themselves. This killed our baseline motivation for difficult tasks, made the physical world feel unbearable, and is actively degrading our ability to synthesize abstract thought, leaving us completely reliant on low-energy clip thinking.
That's the summary of the crime scene.
But, and this is a really, really crucial but, this deep dive isn't just an autopsy.
No, thankfully it's not.
The data also provides a very clear, albeit difficult, strategic roadmap for taking our brains back.
We can rebuild.
We can actually reverse the heist.
Yes. And before we get to the specific protocols, the actual steps, we need to completely reframe how we view this effort.
Reframe it how?
Well, the most profound conclusion from that cognitive capital analysis is a total paradigm shift regarding human attention.
Okay.
For all of human history, deep concentration and the ability to focus were considered basic, default human traits.
Right. It was just assumed you could pay attention.
You might have to train a specific skill, like woodworking or calculus, but the raw ability to pay attention to the task was assumed.
A biological given.
Exactly. But because of the ubiquity of the digital environment today, concentration is no longer a default state.
It's an exception.
It has been transformed into a scarce, highly valuable strategic asset.
A literal form of capital, cognitive capital.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, in a modern economy where the vast majority of the workforce is operating in a fragmented, low-energy, clip-thinking state,
Right.
the minority of individuals and organizations that successfully defend and retain the ability to hold their focus, synthesize complex abstractions, and delay gratification, they will hold an absolute monopoly on complex problem solving.
Because no one else will be physically able to do it.
They will be the only ones capable of doing the high-level work that machines and algorithms cannot do.
Wow.
So rebuilding this capacity isn't just about feeling better or personal wellness.
It's not just a self-help trend.
No. It is a brutal imperative for strategic and economic survival.
So how do we actually get this rare asset back? For the person listening to this right now who is feeling that 10-minute wall every single day at work,
It's a process.
how do they reverse the damage? The data outlines a methodology they call reverse training for the neurosystem.
Yes, reverse training.
And the first step is logically obvious, but practically agonizing.
Suppressing the dopamine noise.
Right. Suppressing the noise.
It is the biological equivalent of triage. You cannot heal a burn while your hand is still resting on the hot stove.
That makes perfect sense.
The underlying cause of the downregulation must be removed. The protocols emphasize the absolute, non-negotiable necessity of instituting profound personal limitations on fast stimuli.
Which means doing the things we all know we probably should do, but now we actually understand the biological why.
Precisely. Turning off every single non-essential push notification on your phone.
Not just putting it on vibrate, turning them off.
Off. Minimizing the constant fractured chatter in operational messaging apps like Slack or Teams.
Oh, that's a hard one for a lot of people.
It is, but it's necessary. And deliberately, strictly breaking the cycle of the endless algorithmic scroll.
So no more TikTok before bed.
The goal here is not necessarily to become a digital monk and throw your phone in the river, but you have to stop the artificial high-frequency neurochemical bombardment.
Give the brain a break.
You must give your dopamine receptors an environment where they are no longer actively under siege.
So they can heal.
Exactly.
Very good.
So they can actually begin the slow process of returning to the surface of the cell and resensitizing to normal life.
Okay. And once you've stopped the act of bleeding, once you've turned down the noise, you have to start what is essentially physical therapy for your brain.
It's a great way to put it.
The materials refer to this phase as unconditional monofocus.
Yes. Monofocus is the direct antidote to the fragmentation of clip thinking.
So what does that look like in practice?
It involves training the brain using rigid, uncompromising single-tasking blocks.
Uncompromising.
The standard recommendation from the sources is to start small, perhaps just 20 to 30-minute intervals.
That doesn't sound too bad.
But during those 20 minutes, you do absolutely nothing but one single task. You write the document, or you read the brief.
Right.
And the rules are absolute. No checking email, no glancing at the phone, even if it's face down on the desk.
No quick Google searches.
No opening a new browser tab to check a quick fact, just the one task.
And having actually tried this recently, I can personally attest that those 20 minutes feel like an eternity at first.
Oh, they are agonizing.
The psychological friction is intense. Your brain is practically screaming at you. You feel physical anxiety. Your fingers literally twitch, wanting to reach for the phone.
It's withdrawal, pure and simple.
It really is.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You are forcing the brain to endure a sustained cognitive load without allowing it the escape hatch of a quick dopamine hit from a distraction.
Yes, trapping it with the hard work.
You are sitting in the discomfort. And by pushing through that anxiety, you are actively rebuilding the neural pathways of cognitive endurance.
Pushing back the wall.
Yes. You are physically pushing back that 10-15-minute wall of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Minute by minute, day by day.
But the next step in this recovery protocol is actually the one I found the most fascinating.
Emptiness.
Yes. And definitely the most counterintuitive. Because, I mean, we are so obsessed with productivity culture, with always doing something.
The hustle.
Right. But the neurobiological data says we must actively, purposefully cultivate emptiness and boredom.
It is arguably the most critical and the most universally avoided step for a modern human being.
Why avoid it?
Because it's uncomfortable. But the data explicitly states that we must legitimize periods of total silence and non-stimulation.
You have to allow our brains to experience profound boredom.
Yes.
So practically, what does that actually look like?
Leaving the phone at home and going for a 45-minute walk.
Just walking. No podcast.
No podcast. Or sitting on a train commute and just staring out the window.
Instead of immediately plugging in an audiobook or scrolling Twitter.
Exactly that. Just existing in physical space without artificial input.
Okay, but why is that so crucial physiologically? Because I know when I try to do that, my brain immediately starts racing.
What does it do?
It starts worrying about what I'm forgetting to do.
Right.
Or replaying an argument from a week ago.
Right. That racing is the system attempting to regulate itself.
It's trying to find a baseline.
Yes. It is crucial because it is only in this state of controlled boredom, in the complete absence of external algorithmic stimuli, that your dopamine system truly recovers.
Oh, wow.
When you allow emptiness, the prefrontal cortex, which has been battered by constant decision-making and impulse control, finally gets to rest.
It goes offline.
It shifts into what neuroscientists call the default mode network.
The default mode network.
Yes. And in this low stimulation state, the dopamine receptors feel safe to fully resensitize to normal baseline levels of environmental stimulation.
They come out of hiding.
Exactly. We have to completely stop viewing doing nothing as a lazy waste of time.
It's not wasted time.
It is critical, active neurobiological maintenance.
Critical neurobiological maintenance. I absolutely love that framing. It completely changes the entire guilt structure around taking a rest.
It's medicinal.
Right. And then once you've started to actually heal the receptors, the final piece of the reverse training puzzle is prioritizing complexity.
Yes. As your receptors resensitize,
Yeah.
and the physical world begins to feel engaging again, you must consciously choose difficult, long-term tasks over quick, easy wins.
You have to seek out the hard stuff.
You have to voluntarily, deliberately engage in projects with a highly delayed, complex reward structure.
So things like learning a difficult new language,
Perfect example.
or mastering a complex musical instrument, reading dense historical texts.
Or taking on a massive multi-year project at work.
Right. Why do we need to do that?
Because engaging in these activities actively retrains the brain's internal scale.
It fixes the cost-benefit analysis.
Yes, it teaches your motivation circuitry to value and seek out long-term achievements again. It effectively reverses the miscalibration caused by the digital casino.
It's like teaching the brain that the feeling of crossing the marathon finish line is profoundly better,
And absolutely worth running for.
even if it doesn't get a sugary snack every 10 steps along the way.
Exactly.
You rebuild the capacity for deep satisfaction.
It is a deliberate, structural, and physiological rewiring back to our optimal state of human operation.
Wow. Okay, let's pull all of these threads together because we've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We started this deep dive looking for a stolen item, investigating a heist that was happening right under our
Get
noses.
theft of desire.
Right. We've investigated how the digital casino hijacked our deep evolutionary survival wiring, weaponizing the exact same variable reward mechanics as a slot machine.
To keep us endlessly, mindlessly pulling the lever.
Exactly. And we shattered that pop science myth, uncovering that dopamine isn't a feeling of reward at all,
It's the biological engine of an unfulfilled thirst.
spiking in the mere anticipation of the swipe, before the video even loads.
And we traced how that constant unnatural chemical bombardment physically deafens our receptors.
The downregulation.
The brain tries to protect itself, but in doing so, it steals our baseline motivation.
Making the beautiful, complex, highly nuanced real world feel intolerably slow and dull.
And we saw the cost of that theft on a systemic level.
The clip thinking.
Right. We are actively trading our incredible human capacity for deep, abstract thought, for low-energy, highly reactive clip thinking.
But, crucially, we also outlined the path back out of the casino
The reverse training.
by aggressively suppressing the artificial noise, enforcing strict periods of unconditional monofocus, and actually embracing the deep discomfort of true boredom,
We can resensitize our minds.
and reclaim our ability to synthesize the world.
And as we close this investigation, there is a final lingering thought I want to leave everyone with.
Okay, let's hear it.
Building directly on that concept of cognitive capital from our corporate analysis,
Right.
we've established that the ability to hold your attention, to think deeply, to conceptualize abstractions, and to desire complex things, that ability is rapidly becoming the absolute rarest and most valuable asset in the modern global economy.
It is the ultimate competitive advantage.
Exactly. So, knowing the incredible value of what you possess, we have to ask ourselves a question.
What's that?
Every single time we mindlessly open an app and begin to swipe, who is getting rich off the profound cognitive wealth we are so casually, so willingly giving away?
Oof. That is a question that is going to be ringing in my ears the next time I reach for my phone in line at the grocery store.
It really makes you think twice.
It really does. We are the vault, and we've just been leaving the heavy steel door wide open for anyone to walk right into.
Time to close the door.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us on this crucial deep dive today. Take back your focus, aggressively protect your cognitive capital.
And take a walk without your phone.
Yes. Maybe today, just take 20 minutes, leave the phone behind, and embrace a little bit of quiet emptiness. We'll catch you on the next one.